I'm not sure if you're okay talking about this, but did you go through a period of time where you were not able to pay your bills being a cinematographer?
Oh yeah, no, I'm happy to discuss
Okay.
that. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been in Los Angeles for 15 years, 15 something like that, and I've been broke for probably 11 of them, 10, something like that, like problematically broke for 5, 6 years. And I feel very lucky. This is one of the things that I'm always very thankful for is I always knew I wanted to be involved in filmmaking, or at least from a very young age. I didn't know if it was realistic. My mother wanted me to be a doctor. My whole family's doctors except for me. But I just loved it so much, filmmaking, the idea of it and any little taste I got, that I slept in my car. My last semester of undergrad, I slept in my car. I went to the gym in the morning to shower. Like it never felt, and it kind of felt romantic. I never felt like I was sacrificing, even though I guess I was. It didn't feel that way because I was pursuing this kind of weird dream. And and money, I will say, it's tricky if you're raising a family and all that, but for me, it has always served me well to ignore money in the jobs I pursue and all that. I have friends who are doing well in, let's say, the commercial world or the corporate world in terms of filmmaking, and they will tell me that they're envious of me because I've shot some features and TV shows, but then something will come their way, some low budget feature, and they'll say no because the pay is no good. But then they get frustrated that they're not getting a feature, but they just want it. And narrative pays worse than commercials. That's generally the rule. And that's, for me, ignoring the money and just chasing the project or the director has served me very well. Some of the jobs, I think about the last show I shot was Pen 15, a Hulu series. And that director, we've worked together on multiple projects. We shot a series before for CISO, which is a defunct streaming service. And we shot a web series for, I think it was like 3 days, 4 days of shooting. I think I got paid $100 and I worked my butt off. And still to this day, it's one of my favorite things that I shot. I believe for him, he got his manager from that. He had a screening, it went very well. It kind of kicked things off for him. And at the time when he asked me to do it, I did hesitate. I was like, oh, that barely pays, like it's barely paying me anything. And then I did it and I loved it. I loved the project. I love everybody involved. A lot of those people are doing well these days, and it's a piece of my community in Los Angeles came from that tiny web series. So for me, and we'll see now, we're in a pandemic as we speak, and I haven't worked in months, and I was okay with it for a time, and now the anxiety's starting to creep in. But I've been freelance for 15 years and I'm used to all manner of ups and downs, and I keep my overhead low so that I don't have to chase money, I guess. Yeah.
Were you actively looking for jobs, or because so much of the film industry just completely shut down?
So yeah, now at this point, the only thing that I've done to be proactive really is I'm not very active with social media, and I realize that for my job, I should make that a higher priority. And I do have friends who are really good with Instagram specifically. And I realize that it's at least has the potential to be a good tool for finding work. And so I am now trying to treat it a little more seriously and trying to create posts that I would like to see, like maybe a little educational or a behind the scenes, or how did you light this, or why is the color palette this, that kind of thing. So I'm trying to now, just so I feel proactive, because I don't really know what else I can be doing right now to find work. I've built a decent network over the years. I have a reputation that I am proud of. But when people aren't calling, I'm genuinely not sure of what one does. And I'm learning. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm talking to different people and seeing what they think, and, you know, just kind of trusting that something will come. And, you know, the last show I shot did well in terms of its reviews and finding an audience. So I'm hoping that you know, might put my name on some lists. But the truth is, so much of this is a crapshoot. I really don't know how to find work. Even when, you know, a decade ago, I woke up every day and I would start on Craigslist, and Mandy was a thing. But I was trying to do that the other day. I was like, oh, I'm curious, are people posting jobs now during all this? But I've never been sure how to find work. It's never made sense to me. But I have been okay at building relationships, and not in an aggressive networking way, I don't think. It's mostly, I'm a big film nerd, and I end up bonding with people who are also film nerds. And the directors who I've bonded with, it tends to be somebody who I met somewhere, and we just got to talking about some movie that we saw, and then it snowballs. And you're like, oh, have you ever seen this movie and this? And just the excitement of it. And I think that's one of the arguments for being in Los Angeles, is you are around other people who are chasing the same dream. And a lot of them, you'll find people who are nerdy in the same way you're nerdy. And then you bond. And then going back to what I was saying earlier about how you are on set, that often starts way before it. You know, it could be in a job interview, but ideally it's a social setting. You're meeting a friend of a friend of a friend at somebody's birthday, and you're like, oh, I really liked that person. And it's like, what do they do? Oh, cinematographer. Well, you know, we have this thing coming up. And I think that's how a lot of Los Angeles connections get made. And I think that was the downside of going to such a small school, is it really didn't, I came to LA with zero connections. And I think people who go to USC, for instance, which is way more expensive, so it has that downside. But I think you are meeting people who are going to be in the industry for the next decade at least. And I think that gives you a real head start in a lot of ways. And now I don't know in terms of film education and the debt or all that, I don't know pros and cons, but I think, yeah, meeting people, which again, in a pandemic is tricky. I have no idea how I'm gonna meet people, but you know, there are film groups that are meeting on Zoom, and I should maybe try to be more proactive about that. But yeah, and you know, doing something like this, who knows? Who knows who will see the interview and be like, hey, that guy.
Yeah,
let's
I
try
like
him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I want to meditate in my car with you.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, you never know. But yeah, I've never been good at figuring out how to get work, how to summon work. It's definitely one of the I'm fond of saying this, but I think it's true. I'm bad at the business side of the business. So
I see a lot of true artists are that way.
Yeah, I have a lot of musician friends, and some of the best ones are terrible at every other part of life, you know? So yeah, I don't know what one does with that, but yeah, you just kind of trust. And I think really the fact that I've been freelance for so long and I've gone through such lean times, it prepares you for future lean times. So yeah, so far I feel okay. I think I told myself I'm allowed to get anxious next March. 1 year, at the 1 year anniversary, if I still have no work, then I'm allowed to start getting a little anxious.
2021.
2021, yeah. Okay. So So I'm a little ahead of schedule. I got anxious for the first time a week or two ago. So that's not part of the deal. So I've got to keep because I know as soon as I end up on a set and I'm on week 4 and I'm exhausted, I'll be like, oh, remember when it was a pandemic and I could just sleep whenever I wanted? So I'll be wishing for this downtime. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, if we go back to 1918, for what's it, the Spanish flu? Yeah. So I mean, what was that? 2 years? If we look at the chart, I'm not exactly sure, but yeah. And if you think about medical advances are far greater now, but then there's the whole thing: does anybody want to take a vaccine?
Right.
We don't. We won't go down that slippery slope. But so I know that's the thing when you're talking about 2009 and Station Fire and all that there was a recession and that was tragic, and we thought we'd probably never see anything like that in our lifetime again. And now you add a bad economy to a communicable disease. Sorry, I can't even say the word, but that is so it's there's new variables that we've never really been in this situation before.
Yeah, no, and I will say, I mean, I think that's always on the table. I think, life is change. And as soon as you think you have stability and a predictability to your life, I think something's going to shake it up. That's something, and that could be the fire speaking. But that's how, certainly, I try not to take anything for granted or assume. I think also, the film industry in and of itself, like the number of projects that I was getting ready to shoot that then just fell through, I mean, it's innumerable. I was supposed to be shooting a feature this summer that I was really excited about. I had 3 features lined up this year, and poof, But I've just, in normal times, that still happens. So I think being prepared for instability in this industry is really important, and and weighing if that's worth it. I'm lucky. I don't have a wife and kids. And so my anxiety, any anxiety that arises, is just for me. I would imagine for somebody with a family, you have to provide for, like I don't see how that couldn't raise your stress. So, it's our industry is pretty cruel. It chews you up, it spits you out. There's always somebody behind you in line. So, I don't know. I think that's why you really got to love it. Because otherwise, I do not recommend getting into this industry. But I'm lucky because I do love it. I love it very purely. So now we'll see how long that lasts. I'm sure one morning I'll wake up and be like, I'm gonna go see if there's work at the gas station. Like, who knows?
Or you said you love like ventriloquism and things like that. You never know. You might make a line of these puppets or what. I mean,
that's right.
There's new things that could happen that sometimes we don't even know what our interests are.
It's true. Yeah, you never know. And again, I try to be open to all those things. To life is change, and it's all an adventure. And TikTok. Who knows how much time you got left? So, I think being open to any other experiences, any other paths that reveal themselves in life, like. I don't know, take it. Why not? What the heck? So yeah, I'm always open to anything that might come down the pike. If I respond to it, that's all I need, and then I'll follow that.
When you look back at those times when you were trying to find work and they were lean times, did you lose faith in yourself? Did you ever say, what, I should have done pre-med?
Yeah, I think in my leaner times, there were certainly doubts that came up, like, is this plausible? I mean, the truth is, I still wonder, can I do this for another 10, 20, 30, 40 years? And I genuinely don't know. So I think there have been doubts in terms of, is this a lifestyle that I want to continue pursuing? That is probably the bigger one. I had a year, 2017, which was my first really busy year. And I shot, I can't remember, it was like 30, 40 episodes of various shows, half-hour TV. Like, it was just, I went from one show to the next to the next. I spent 6 or 7 months in other states shooting. And it was good, obviously, to be shooting. I was so exhausted by the end of the year that I felt really burnt out, and I got freaked out that I was like, oh no, like, can I not do this anymore? And it took me 2 months to recover, just sleeping basically for 2 months. I was seeing friends for the first time in a year, and it was the first time where I got scared of what can happen in this industry. On the flip side, I was used to being broke and not having work, and that brought its own anxiety. And then doing 13-hour days for a full year just ground me down mentally and physically. And so now when I have the luxury of choosing jobs, I now pay more attention. Who am I working with? Is this really something that I feel a pull toward? And trying to weigh, pros and cons of everything, because I really don't know. I mean, I am scared of this industry. I've watched it take more talented people and spit them out and turn them bitter. And that's something I'm really worried about. I don't want that to be the case with me. I want to make sure that I still love what I'm doing for as long as possible. And part of that is meditation, making sure I know that. So going for evening walks for me is like a huge thing. It calms me down and all that. So when I'm working on set on a show, I have a lot of strict rules. I have dietary rules and sleep rules that I follow really closely because of that 1 year. It was so intense that it freaked me out. And now, so you're taking that experience and combining it with years of being broke and having doubts, but always still just kind of, okay, just keep working on your craft and hope that something works out. But yeah, I don't know. It's all scary. When I really think about this industry, it's a tough one to feel good about, unfortunately. And I'm hoping, who knows, this pandemic, maybe I'm hoping it'll turn into, I've heard some shows are switching to French hours, which means instead of a 12.5-hour day with a half-hour lunch in the middle, is you work for 10 hours straight. You don't stop for lunch. It's a walking lunch. And I would love that. To go home 2 hours earlier is definitely worth not sitting down for a half hour for lunch. But it helps your immune system. We're learning more about what lack of sleep does to your body, and it's not good. So I do hope that, be it a certain director or a certain studio or whatever it is, that quality of life maybe could move up the list in terms of priorities. I think that'd be lovely. I don't have a lot of faith in that happening, but I do hope that there's a way to be doing this into my 70s and feel like I'm still taking care of my life. I don't know if that's possible, but one can dream.